All right. So good morning, everyone. And I didn't know how much I was missing everyone, I don't think, until I got online today and started to see people's names and faces pop up and remind me of just what an amazing community we're a part of. So good to see and to hear you all here today. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is mostly related to child safeguarding, and I'm not going to review our child safeguarding policy because I think we're all quite familiar with it, but it is on board docs should you want to take a look at that. Alex, could you go to the next slide, please? If you want to have this presentation, I've put in a bit.ly link there that you can copy and paste yourselves. And most of the information that I'm sharing has come from these three sources. As everyone has been saying, we have so many colleagues around the world that have been working in this area for the past 6 to 8 weeks. And so we are borrowing and not stealing from them for what I'm going to share today. The first one there, the Council of International Schools, has taken the lead in child safeguarding around the world, and they have continued to do that with child safeguarding ideas and practices in virtual learning. So the first link there is Katie Riggs. She's the head of the child safeguarding at CIS, and some information that she shared. The second is an organization out of the United Kingdom, and it's about lone working generally and gives us some guidance for virtual learning. And then AISG, they had an infographic on video safety, so I put that up there as well, and you'll see that we have used some of their ideas too. So let's get started. Alex, could you go to the next slide? So the first area of child safeguarding we wanted to delve into was video. And as Alex has said earlier, we want to record all the sessions so that other students can see it later. But we also want to be able to provide access to parents should they have questions about interactions during a classroom session that would have been live. Alex, if you could go to the next slide. When you're meeting with students, especially if they're one-on-one meetings, what you want to make sure is that they are scheduled ahead of time so that all children know, so that parents can know when their children are going to be working directly with one teacher, and that they have given permission for you to be able to do that. And as I tried to do, and as we'll really have to figure out more how to do it well, is getting consent for any one-on-one sessions for sure, but also possibly if you're recording and you're going to have the pictures of children on the screen and we're going to put that on YouTube, we want to make sure we have consent in some way before that. And the tech team will be working on figuring out how we can do that really well in the next week. Next slide, please. For a video recording, and I think this has been mentioned over and over, the first, we're really creating a professional learning space or a learning space for children. And so in the video, if you are on video, you want to make sure you're wearing something that you would wear if you were in a live classroom. I know we're all trying to get into routines and make sure that we are following sort of patterns we would if we were in our day-to-day work. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about recording with kids as the audience. And then also that the background space, either for you or the children that you're working with, should be a public space and professional. I'm not sure how we do professional in our homes, but it's not in a bedroom. It's not in a space where that kids might see something that you wouldn't want them to see if they were in your regular classroom. If you have a child who you see is in their bedroom, what you can do is ask them to go to a public space and say, we'll wait until you are in that public space. And this is the same as our communication guidelines on any given day, that the communication that you use with children, you want to make sure that you're using the school platforms. That would be our Outlook email. And if you use PowerSchool, if you use Google Classroom, or Seesaw for elementary school, and possibly OneNote for some of our math teachers. And as with our usual protocol, that you're not sharing phone numbers, you're not following them on social media or friending them on Facebook. Not that any of our students are on Facebook anymore, if we're real. And lastly, Julie and Julie, last time in the last session, they talked, I think Nina had a question about what to do if there's a distressed child. And as we know, there will be children who may be distressed during this time. As child safeguarders, we are looking for certainly emotionally that they are safe, but also if you think that they may be distressed about something else that might be happening in the home, you want to be aware of that too. You're going to use the same strategies that you would if a child was in your class to be able to help to calm them down. As Julie and Julie said, using some of the Help Now strategies and the resourcing strategies that we've been teaching through C-Learning would be really helpful. And if you think they are distressed beyond what you would see normally, you want to first of all let somebody on the mental health team know. As Julie and Julie mentioned, right now we don't necessarily know who would be the best person available in different time zones. We will get to that, but let the person who works in your division for now know if you see that. You should probably also let a divisional principal know that, or AP know, if a child seems to be distressed, and a note to the parents. Now, you're going to be using your best judgment to try to figure out what is distress beyond a usual level. But I think what Julie said in the last session, better to just essentially pop by and let somebody know if you have a concern. And I'm going to stop now. And before we go to the exit ticket, just take a look at what some of the questions might be. I also wanted to let you know that if there's a child who is in your learning space and is not behaving appropriately, that you are able to block them and block them from adding into the messaging. And Mario is going to pop in just to tell you how you can do that.
Hi, everybody. So when you click on people on the top left hand side, you have access to everybody where you could actually click on the individual user, and there's a little bit of a circle with a dash on it where you can remove somebody from a conversation. You can also mute a particular person from that particular conversation. That's one way to do it. The student or the faculty does have a chance of joining the session again. If you feel that there's somebody that needs to be blocked completely, then what you could do is just send an email to IT and we can block that person from getting into any of the chats.
Thank you, Mario. So I'm just taking a look at some of the questions and I'll be able to answer them as they come, or I'll try to. And the first one I see in the list was Mina's. How much time should be given? 24 hours should be enough time, yes. Calderay, the presentation is, I'll put up the link again, or the address again so that you can get to it. Cindy, what if a student declines being recorded when asked for consent? So then I would let them know that it is going to be recorded and they can watch it at a different time so that they're not part of that. Another option is to talk to their parents. Rob, the question about one-on-one student meetings, so that would be through email would be the best way, because you wouldn't necessarily have any other contact information for parents. John Kilbane, I'm looking at yours right now, and you're probably using Google Classroom. So you would put it into Google Classroom and put the link to the meeting, and then you can also email the class parents, and there are, you can get, what we can work on is getting lists of students, or veer across lists so that it's easy for you. I think that's already done, but if not, make it easier for you to be able to find your group of students. Carol, I'm looking at your question. What do you do with students who may have a no photo restrictions? For those students, they should not put their video on, or they could watch the recordings. And I'm going to ask Alex or Mario to answer Mina's question, what is being recorded in the video conferencing?
So what's essentially being recorded right now, and you'll see examples of this later today when we wrap up the day of virtual learning, because like we said several times in the chat, we're going to be sending out not only the presentations, but also the recordings of the sessions. And so what you're going to see is there's two things that are being recorded. It's whatever's happening during the Google Meet on the screen, as well as the chat log. So all of that will be recorded.
And Adara, Toby is going to answer your question about how weekly advisory will work from, it's from the middle school perspective. And I think in your Tuesday faculty meeting tomorrow, that will be discussed a little bit more for high school, but Toby can answer that.
Hi, Adara and everyone. So in the middle school, we're actually doing daily advisory check-ins for wellness and for just general social emotional well-being. And we are having right now, teachers today and tomorrow are sending out emails to their mentors. So every teacher has about 6 mentors or 2 advisors, or maybe sending out to their 12 advisees. And they're asking where they are in the world first. And based on that, they may be setting up either one common meeting time that everyone can make easily, or they might be setting up 2, a morning and an evening meeting time that people can draw and do a Google Meets. It might, end up being 10-minute sessions. I mean, the teachers will be available for the half hour, but it might be just for to check in. And we have lots of things we've been throwing out to teachers about that you've seen from Kelly Meeker, for instance, for social emotional well-being as ideas for advisory. I suspect you'll have more information tomorrow, like Fiona said, but it'll probably start, I assume, with an email to your students to try to just figure out where they are and what would be a convenient time for those advisory check-ins.
Brandon, your question about mentor meetings, could we request the parents to be present? I think that's a great idea to be able to get the parent and the student in the room and have them see you. It's just a great way for everyone to feel a little bit more connected and calm. And you certainly could work with your advisory partner to think about co-meeting with them so that there's 2 adults in the room. Karen, the question about YouTube after, I'm going to let the tech folks. Oh, Alex has already answered it, done. Jane, the meeting times would not be happening necessarily every day. So if you're reaching out to parents first, they're going to be able to plan for when there would be a meeting where their child would be online with other folks. And so it'll make it easier on them to be able to make arrangements for where to go during that specific time that you would be on or a teacher would be on with their parents. And Toby is beside me and he's suggesting headphones as well. And I'm going to ask our tech folks, are headphones from the school going to be available possibly for pickup?
I don't see why not. I think that everything that we have available on campus, like I said in the first session, like we don't want it just sitting there because it's not benefiting anyone if it's just sitting in empty classrooms. So if you have resources in your class you need to get, right, there's a locus specify the protocol to get those and to get access to those. If you don't have a pair of headphones, we have a lot of them available. The tech team has them. On top of that, we are also looking at putting in orders. If there are additional resources that teachers need to be successful right now, please send that request into the IT department and we can look at actually ordering stuff from Amazon, getting it delivered to the campus, and then having it do that same drive-by pickup that you would normally do. Mario, anything you want to add there?
What I can just show you all right now is what we have for checkout. So we've got right now over here, we've got our iPads. So we've got iPads for checkouts. They've all been sanitized by Shinde. We've got a couple of tripods. We've got some stands for your devices. We've also got cameras for checkout. So they've all been cleaned and kept. And we've just got some from the elementary campus. We've got headsets. So we've got some USB headsets if you like to use them. So they're all available. Just email IT and we'll make the arrangements for them for you guys to reach to your house.
Tom, going to your question, is a system being set up to schedule meetings? That was something that Alex and Mario are working on. I'm not sure if it wouldn't be better to be done by division. So Justin will talk about that tomorrow during your Tuesday faculty meeting.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, what Mario and I have been looking at is similar to how you would have a testing calendar. You don't want kids to be expected to be in two places at the same time. So what we're looking at doing is having a shared Google Calendar that can have and be populated with all of the scheduled Google Meets that are taking place with large groups of students. So we'll have more information on what that looks like. We've just been testing it out right now. We don't want to roll anything out until we know for sure that it works. But that's been on our radar, and it's something that would be really nice to just have an overall view of what's taking place on any given day, so you don't schedule kids in conflicts.
I want to go back to some of the questions about permissions, and then Rob, you'll be able to ask your audio question, okay? So the question about permission for Google Meets, you want parent permission for one-on-ones. You want parents to know the schedule for Google Meets. So for Google Meets, all parents get an email saying we're setting up this Google Meet at this time. And then for one-on-ones, you write to parents and say, I'm so-and-so's mentee and I want to just do a check-in with them. I would be meeting with them from this time to this time. Do I have your approval to go forward with that? And you're welcome to, and you can invite the parents to be there if you wanted to as well. Rob, would you like to ask your question now?
You got to unmute your microphone and then you're good to go, Rob.
Ah.
There you are.
Am I on?
You are.
It's amazing. Just a couple of things that are on my mind. One is that I'm aware that the kids might be hit by something of a tsunami of information from all of us tomorrow. And many of us are going to be making the same statements, asking similar questions. We are all inevitably going to be talking about timings. Permissions may well come up, although that's a more discretionary process. Explanations, but we're really kind of setting out our stalls and looking at students' geographical locations. Is there anything that we don't need to do that is being centralized? For example, student locations, for example, schedules and timings. That'd be my first question. And my second question is, how do we take a view of the amount of time we're expecting students to sit in front of a screen? When they're in school, it is active, they're moving around. All of our classes are very dynamic. What do you think the best way is to take a kind of good overview of that?
So Rob, to answer the first question first about student locations, when we had our LT meeting yesterday, what we discussed was that advisors and homeroom teachers would be the ones to gather that information. And that way it's sort of distributed and more likely and it'll be that beginning of relationships. So that will, and the principals will have essentially a Google spreadsheet with a tab for each of your advisories, and then with all of the names of kids, and then you'll just note in where each child is, and if they're going to go someplace else.
And everyone will have visibility of that.
Yeah, I will double check today, but yes, that is my understanding, that it will be a document open for your division so that you're able to see. So that's
Can I jump in on that for what? Yeah. So yes, Rob, that's exactly what we're doing. We're having our mentors find out the information, share directly with Ramona, and then Ramona's putting it in a spreadsheet, and then we'll share that out with everyone once all the information is compiled. So I'm assuming Justin will probably do the same thing for his. I've shared what we're doing. So all of the 3 principals are sharing the information that we're doing for divisions. So we're starting to streamline for consistency among all of us. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
okay. The second question, I think, was about timings.
Yeah.
And I assume by that you mean when the classes will be on, correct? So,
yes.
So we are continuing to follow the same school schedule. So, forgive me, I don't know. Let's say tomorrow's day A, B, C, D.
Sure.
Then those 4 classes will have posted what they are asking children to do by 9 a.m. tomorrow. They would need to have 24 hours in advance, tell kids, and we're going to try to get together at X time. So I'm imagining, for instance, tomorrow there will not be any, unless that's already been arranged, there won't be any class meetings. After that, we will have to figure out a system so that we'll know that it's only on the days you have classes. What we'll have to figure out is how to make that accessible to students who are in different time zones. So it could be that your class is at 8:30 in the morning usually, but that means that somebody like Casey would be getting up terribly early to be able to make that class. So maybe you want to push it to a different time. That will have to come at a divisional level, only because of the complexity of all of the schedules across the school. And that's something that Justin will be able to talk to you about tomorrow in your faculty meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I think the
I
third is...
I can say on that, Fiona, too. I can say we agreed on 2.5 hours of time per subject for our classes. So it should be in your asynchronous document of what you've agreed on for your team. So essentially we've said it's 4 hours of learning. It's like a 60-minute block essentially for the day the kids would be on. But we've put so tomorrow is, they'd have E through H, right? So the email is gonna come out saying it's day 8, you have E through H. You will be able to navigate kind of your schedule for that day, knowing that they could do any class at any time, essentially. What will become the more complex piece exactly is when you want to do any synchronous meetings. But for now, that's how we're looking at it. So imagine kind of 4 hours from our perspective in the middle of them being on screen, but it's all in your, should be all in your asynchronous document from your divisional, and exactly Justin will clarify. Oh, there you go.
If I could just jump in, that's in the asynchronous document that it is an hour of engagement per class, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's screen time. For example, you could give a writing prompt and then the expectation is it's an hour's worth of work for the student. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a meeting or a performance or anything like that. So an hour of some form of engagement per class as it occurs in the naturally cascading calendar. So we are following the learning calendar as listed on Veracross. And so you can easily see which day it is and when those classes are going to occur.
That's excellent. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
And I would say that just could I just say that there's that fear about screen time is something we're all going to have to monitor. It sounds like from our colleagues in other schools, ironically, the screen time almost goes up only because it's connection. It's what I'm doing right now. It's looking at you.
Yeah. Fiona, can I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah. So, for example, if I want to write some expectations for my class or things, do I need them to be sent today itself? Like I have HEF, I have the H block tomorrow. So those expectations, do I need them to be sent today by the evening, or those expectations need to be going by 9 a.m. tomorrow?
Mina, I would say it's 9 a.m. tomorrow. Almost, okay. I mean, imagine we are starting school over and it's August.
Okay.
We are starting virtual school, and so tomorrow for those classes is really the first day of school. And we all know we're going to have to calibrate a little bit. So I would just start off that way. And this was in the email last night. We're looking for quality engagement, but
Right.
not having the kids do a million things. And so easing them into online learning, because they'll have, some of them will have 8 online experiences to manage through different platforms, especially if they're in virtual high school or global online. They'll actually
Right.
have to be managing those on top of their ASB commitments. So I think Rob's point about crushing them early on is well made, in that we're looking for quality engagement, but it does not have to be 8 million things at once.
Okay.
And might I add there, Nina, what you might want to consider, and I put this out to everyone, is what are the working agreements that you as a group are going to potentially develop, and have that student voice continue to be a part of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, I'm just seeing if there are any other questions here. So just so you know, I will take all of the Q&A that's in this chat, and I'll make sure to write up answers to each of them to the best of my ability with the help of Mario and Alex and the principals. But I will be able to send that out to all of you, and that can continue. That will be a document that's available for everyone moving forward. Okay, last questions for the greater good. The window is closing. Oh, there we go. Oh, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much,
Great
Fiona.
to see you all.
Bye, Fiona.
Bye.
All right, I'm stopping the recording now, giving everyone a heads up. Thank you so much again, Fiona.